Then you're approached by friends of Wormwick, who ask if you will come break bread at his table.
Sure.
Okay. And when you sit down, he's tiny, even for a gnome. Like, he needs a booster chair, kind of tiny. Like, he has to climb up onto his chair. And a ridiculous-looking fellow. He's got this conical pointed hat, and he's got this conical beard that kind of comes off of his chin down to a point, so his head has this weird symmetry to it.
Yeah.
He thought your trick with the arcane eye was brutish and crude, but showed a sort of promise that could be molded given the proper tutelage. And he sees why Lucius is considering sponsoring you.
If I had nothing to learn, I wouldn't be interested in joining.
So where you actually are is you have kind of a large commissary kind of area in one of the buildings that the Telestinus Act operates. And a lot of the older members that kind of just think of like they have tenure at their alma mater.
University.
They kind of just hang around forever and ever. An old professor who's just pervasive in the building. And they eventually have their own little tables and places. You need permission to sit down at their table. Like other wizards in a show of honor will line up and all lay their quills down one at a time kind of situation. So already it's considered something of an honor for Wormwick to have invited you for luncheon. Over the course of the conversation with him, when you talk about the palace, Wormwick has no love for the current king, because he was one of the people in charge of moving Telestinus Apt's presence out of the palace and into the main headquarter grounds. And this, he saw it as a security risk, because the palace contained things that they had the ability to keep under lock and key that they had to scramble to find solutions for once they took it out of the palace. Maximilian was too dim-witted to see that he made the city less safe by doing so. And what your 21 gets you, Wormwick has a sister named Kidali. Kidali is a very low-ranking member of the Black Jackets, but she works inside the palace, and here's the kicker, she's a member of the Kavnokar's Eye. She's a secret member of this illusionist guild associated with thievery in town.
So she would know better than anyone how foolish it was for them to move you out of there.
Not only that, but both of them have reason to want to stick it to King Maximilian.
Because here's where I thought I might have seen an opportunity is we all know there's going to be a new king soon enough, and we don't want them to make the same sort of mistakes as the old king. So I was wondering if we could find and prove this is why they need you.
Do any of the four of you in these respective meetings let it be known that you personally have Tensail's ear? That you are in his inner circle?
What do I learn from this guy before? Do I get anything other than the public information in this conversation?
We're going to get to that in just a second.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That hasn't happened yet.
I wanted to finish up Telestinus Apt first. Because I thought you meant...
Yep, no, yeah. I'm understood.
Okay. I thought Nodal might do some bullshit that would take some time to resolve.
The way Seeker would drop that information is less that we're in his inner circle and more that he owes us he feels gratitude to us because we saved his life.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you mention that, the gnome leans forward and then clasps his hands together, like he just put together this realization. Because he's heard descriptions of the people who apparently fought with Tensails on the day he landed, and knew Lucius previously, but just now put together that Lucius was among that group. He seems very pleased by this.
Took a fairly nasty wound when that happened.
Yeah, 5d12.
Glance at Seeker. He took significantly more than a grievous wound.
I think he took 10d12.
I'm fine. I got better.
So what you get from Wormwick is you get this contact with his sister on the inside. She's been working in the Black Jackets practically Maximilian's entire reign without his knowledge. There's no way he would allow like an adherent of this illusionist thieves guild inside of his castle willingly. So she's kind of infiltrated the place.
Okay.
Gus, you and your 5, buddy. I got nothing for you.
It's fine. I got distracted along the way, and I come back to the barge with some hot wings from that guy.
Very good. So Lucius Alex and Florian, do you tell... Well, first of all, where do you take up this meeting with Caskiz? He's staying at this high-end inn. You might be able to just sit down with him in his chambers.
Let's go to the common room and order lunch.
Sure.
Okay, so down in the tap room.
Yeah.
And
At some point, I think we have to visit his place and then actually investigate his claims, because otherwise, what kind of investigators would we be?
So, Caskiz's people get word that you're going to have this sit down with him. And this looks like a guy who's been working on 45 minutes sleep for months and months and months. He is haggard. He's well past middle-aged. And he has some personal members of his house here with him, but he's the only representative of his family.
And is he nobility, or is he just a wealthy commoner?
He would be considered nobility because he has that kind of wealth and because his family name is tied to those lands, but the lands are not administrated by Dunfoss. They're outside of Dunfoss and influence as far as nobility is concerned in the city. He would not have a vote for the next king.
Okay, that answers my question.
But the name Caskiz would be known for travelers along the road. Hey, you've heard enough about his story that you think at least part of it must be true. And seeing this man, you can see that he is completely miserable and bedraggled. And he's been waiting for weeks. He has not been here for as long as some of the petitioners that you've spoken to. But this is the kind of guy that should be dealt with sooner rather than later. You do not want this kind of guy sitting in your city for weeks awaiting an audience. At the opening of the conversation, he's kind of under the impression that the two of you are able to get him an audience. There's been a kind of miscommunication between his people. And you can tell that he's spoken to these kind of go-betweens before and potentially been scammed by them.
Well, obviously I'll introduce ourselves and tell we're working for Flumph Inc. As founding members, and that we are actually very interested in getting the king to be more responsive. And right now we unfortunately do not have an inform, but we're mostly trying to figure out who might. We're working on maybe a way to bundle up several important claims that might be, together too important to ignore, even though at this point it seems like some of the ones that are being ignored are individually at that light rate, or anything else he can give us to help us with this investigation and help us with getting some people actually through to see the king.
And Florian introduces himself in his typical manner. I will let you call me Florian.
He asks how much this is going to cost him.
Ox just sort of looks at Florian. 500 gold. No. Florian shrugs. We'll send you an invoice on any expenses incurred over a period of time. But as of right now, we are still doing a cursory investigation.
He kind of looks puzzled at you. Send me an invoice. You're supposed to take my money up front and then never deliver on anything. Isn't that how you city folk do business?
No, I mean occasionally we need an advance in order to actually be able to pay people to eat while they work cases, but most of the time we get paid when we get our jobs done. That's why we have a lot of incentive to get them done well.
So you mentioned that
So
his
our
case.
seeker is thieving.
You mentioned that his case might be bundled together with some other cases that need attention. He asks what sort of cases those might be.
Other cases of this sort of scale that obviously are ongoing offenses that need to be dealt with directly and quickly. We're hoping if we can get enough things that actually need action now due to the nature of something that's still continuing, the king won't be able to ignore it.
He says, do you even think the king is alive in there?
That's one of the things we're hoping to find out.
At this, you kind of pique his curiosity quite a bit. And he leans in and he takes his voice down a tone. So as not to be overheard. And he says, how would you find out if he's alive?
When we have that answer for you, we'll send you the invoice.
That's a really good answer.
It'll all be well documented there. All expenses and methods.
He says, look, all I want is recompense for what was taken from me and my house, and the king's assurance that such things won't happen again in my lands. I'm not trying to cheat or falsify anybody. Maximilian, by reputation, wouldn't stand for that kind of thing. I want to get this done before... And you see him stop for a second. And you imagine he was going to say something disparaging about Sigurd 10 sales, but then thinks better of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the words he decides on at the end are, before the change of power.
Oh, right, because he's more than nobility, so okay. He wouldn't want someone in the commons. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
He'd rather deal with a straight shooting dwarf than an unknown quantity of a pirate king.
That makes sense too. Then do we tell him that we're working for 10 sales? I don't think we do.
No. I mean, again, my biggest hope is if he has any information for us that would help us in the investigation.
Florian will ask him outright if he's... He certainly seems to have his suspicions about the king, but has he actually heard anything?
He said he paid some gold a week or two back to try to get the answer to that very question. He found some servants on the palace staff, one of which had claimed to be down in the catacombs. Gave them some money to look into it, and expected to never see them again. This has happened to him many times since he's been in Dunfoss. Remarkably, they actually got back to him. And didn't have any information about whether the king was alive or not. But over the course of dealing with these people, gleaned that there is a connection, a physical connection, between the catacombs under the palace and a particular establishment in East Harbor.
What's the name of the establishment?
That's what I'm trying to find in my notes right now. You're getting ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
Why I don't organize these notes better, I will never know. You would think by now. It is a tailor's shop.
A tailor shop?
Stosser. Stosser's is the name of the shop.
And so, just so I'm understanding this correctly, there's a physical connection, meaning like there's some sort of like passageway, traversal between.
That's what
the
he's saying.
shop.
He's saying
Okay.
that the cellar of this tailor's shop has a wall that connects to some old catacombs that eventually lead in through the palace. And that this is the route that the people that he paid used to get in and out of the catacombs, specifically because getting in from the palace is so difficult. Security is tightened up. They've noticed guards placed in front of stairwells and doorways that typically would not have guards placed there. So he has this information about how to get into the catacombs, but he hasn't put much thought into it.
Because there's guards. Okay. Then that also explains why he hasn't himself just gone and taken a look. Okay.
He's not the kind of guy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a noble. He wouldn't like. It doesn't do him any good to clandestinely sneak into the palace.
That said, if he's here for more like another couple weeks and he starts to getting desperate, he might pay this tailor's shop a visit.
Well, I believe we were talking about an invoice. Maybe we can save you that trouble.
So again, he repeats his question: how much is this going to cost him?
Man.
What are you actually offering him?
Very reasonable. I believe that for as long as we can get you an audience, you know, aside from any expenses, which I can't imagine there would be anything too extravagant, something like what, 50 gold pieces at the most, if we can do it immediately, and probably on a sliding scale. You know, it doesn't do as much good in a week.
That sounds reasonable to me.
But again, we won't send you an invoice until we've actually provided service.
Yes.
He curses under his breath and says, if you solve this problem for me, and the gods are good, this will be the last 50 gold I ever spend in Dunfoss. Then he offers forth his hand.
Alex will shake his hand.
Okay. Then later that evening, you're reconvening back at the barge.
Yeah.
Gus gives everybody an order of chicken wings.
They're cold now because Gus ordered them 6 hours ago.
Right. Also drunk. Gus is probably a little drunk.
Also, you've never confirmed they're actually chickens.
I'm sure if you give Alex 8 hours, he'll invent a microwave.
Hey, Seeker, is 50 gold pieces a reasonable rate?
Are you asking Seeker or are you asking me? Because I have no idea.
Seeker.
I'd have to roll some sort of dice. Right?
Gus is gonna look at you. Do realize that like a gold is like it's like a year's worth of, you know, income for like a peasant, right?
Right, but that wasn't a peasant. You were
That's
talking-
definitely not a peasant. This is definitely a noble, and we are definitely about to thrust ourselves into danger yet again.
Who's holding the sending stones?
I have one, and then I guess I have two because I still have. Yeah, I have a sending stone for Tom Wolfe, and I have a sending stone I made myself that I gave to a member of gave to 10 Sales to put on, give to one of his surveillance team.
That's the one that rings later in the afternoon. As the sun is starting to go down, we're starting to go into evening. They followed Journey all day. They were just going to check in with you guys because 10 Sales told them that you were to be kept abreast of anything they learned. They don't think anything interesting has happened over the course of the day. Journey spoke to a lot of people. She did her little chats. She did her presentations. But she also had a lot of conversations with people that they took note of. And a lot of these people you recognize. Just their like names or brief descriptions. Not anybody particularly important, just people that you and the rest of Flumph Inc. have had dealings with over the past several months in the course of investigating several of your cases. This doesn't really strike them as important at all because they don't know who you all have been dealing with. That's something you have to put together after they tell you this particular list. The only place that she visited today that they thought was out of sorts is she actually paid a call to the White Hart District, a place that typically she would not visit in town, just because there's not a lot of crowds there, not a lot of peasants going back and forth. But she went there and had a long and rigorous debate with several of the moss caps. And the location of it is of interest to you because it's an alley relatively near to the opening you guys use to get into the sewers.
So I think she's trying to keep tabs on us then?
It sounds like she's trying to keep tabs on the sewers.
Lucius, make an investigation check.
I mean, are we sure she hasn't taken the flying pig up on that offer from the letter she got?
Oh, he's very dead.
18.
Are we sure
18.
she's not like Skada in disguise?
That would be a twist.
What a twist.
The people that the 10 sales guys who you're meeting with, giving you their quick report, they don't think any of this information correlates at all. Lucius, when you hear it, you're putting it together. It sounds like somewhere along the line she got word that you all had been adventuring down in the Undercity. And that she's been trying to figure out where. And that today she must have learned about that entrance that goes down into the sewers.
Okay.
So what would you like to do about it this evening?
We could always just go ask her why she's looking into us.
That is an option.
I mean, it's not like we have to tell her how we figured out. We're investigators. We investigated. That's how we know that you know that we know. You know? Just don't let Gus do any speaking.
The thing that's getting me is if she wants to look into just us in particular, there's other places she could be looking.
But
why does she care about us going into the Undercity?
I mean, she was also very concerned about the flying pig. She might be trying to follow up on that. Like, she might not know that we, shot the flying pig with a crossbow.
Make an investigation check. This is another 5. That's gonna be real funny.
It's gonna be less than. Oh wait, nope. That's a 10. Can I get a?
You can get a +5 on that.
Okay, 15.
Get a little stank. Discussing it with Seeker, like what is her intent in the Undercity? Thinking about it some more. Your companions at Pylos Apt and the guy that they met up in the palace grounds, it's known that Dunfoss has this vast Undercity, and the sewers that you were going through were a part of it. It's possible that Journey, who you've been told by 10 Sails, is already trying to determine whether the rumor that the king is dead is false. Is trying to find a way into the Undercity herself, and is using you guys to do it. To kind of follow your footprints. How did Flumph Inc. do it? Which means there might be a connection between the sewers and the catacombs you're trying to enter.
So do you think we catch her in the act? Going into that place?
Well, here's what I think. We think we have a second entrance, right?
Yeah.
How about, helpful citizens that we are, we warn the palace they might have a security breach in the sewers.
Then how would we get in?
We don't go through the sewers.
Can we?
How do we go in though?
Through the tailor shop.
Oh,
Through the
okay.
tailor shop, but how do we
I think
leverage
first
that?
we need to ascertain if the tailor shop rumor is accurate, and if we can, what it's going to cost us to use it.
I think that's what we find out first, and if we find out we have an entrance there,
Yeah.
I have a
We,
contact in the Black Jackets.
we leave her high and dry.
And the palace might be very curious to find out why she's looking for an entrance into the palace itself. That should keep her occupied for a few days.
At the very least.
Should be careful though, because this may be the first instance of people actively trying to investigate whether or not the king is dead. And if the king actually is dead, we might be making things more difficult for us.
I mean, my biggest concern is what if they go down to the catacombs and backtrace passages they expect might have entrances and find the one we want to use.
My thought is that if the king is dead, and they haven't already begun doing that while they're trying to hide that the king is dead, that they're so incompetent that we're not going to have much of a problem no matter what we do.
I think your Alex is showing.
So what is the plan tonight? What are you going to do with this information you've learned about Journey? Because the plan was to try to tail her and catch her in some kind of act. And it looks like... Well, you don't know what she's going to do tonight, but you know that she made that one stop in the White Hart district that seems very out of place for her.
Yeah, I think let's go look into there. What do you think, guys?
Boy, I would rather get information on the tailor shop sooner rather than later. I feel like we might want to hit that tonight or tomorrow.
I think we should go tonight, because I think we should secure our entrance and then go almost as soon as we are able. Like, the quicker the better.
I think we secure our entrance tonight. We maybe check on this thing. We can give the tip off tomorrow, and then we go in through the tailor shop.
Okay.
I think that sounds like a plan to me.
That sounds like a good plan.
All five of you going to the tailor's shop?
I mean, I need a new pair of pants anyway.
Yeah, the number of boots I go through, especially once I start magicking them up.
That'd be a cobbler's shop, would it not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the shop is in East Harbor. In East Harbor, you remember, a lot of it is built up along the edge of the cliff of this high hill that the palace sits on. So you have actually two entrances into the palace district from East Harbor. One is here, going up onto this bridge that spans the two halves of the district. And the other is here, which enters up into a large western gate. Just common public knowledge is these gates inside of the city can be closed off. They can all be closed, barred, and heavily guarded, but in recent memory, this has virtually never happened. Like, it would be extreme cause for concern. The act of closing down any of the gates in the city would be seen as an act of massive paranoia on the part of the king. That being said, security in the area is much larger than normal. More moss cap patrols are in the area. Men of the Silver Shields are seen in the vicinity of the gates more often than usual, which is very, very rare. The tailor shop is several blocks to the north of the stairs leading up to the gate in the palace district. There's kind of like a large, very fancy kind of embankment of buildings built up into the side of the cliff itself. Just north of that is a slightly less classy part of town with lots of just small little shops. Dozens and dozens of no-name establishments. One of this is run by this fellow, Stouser. And we're feeding Gus for new pants.
I'm going to just like I'll keep him busy if you guys want to look around.
All five of you are going to the shop at the same time, yes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bringing Scrappy and the Flying Cat.
Yep.
I mean, I always got to bring the flying cat.
It's part of you.
As you're approaching the stop,
Me that knows perception.
Stouser, you see him out on the streets, on the cobbles, and he's locking up the store for the day. It's a 2-story building very narrow, where the bottom floor is his shop, and then there are stairs along the outside that head up to a second floor, which is his quarters. It's a family-owned shop, but he's unmarried and has no children. So kind of a sad old man, locking up for the day as the five of you approach.
Shopkeeper, I need some new pants.
What are the state... I don't want to ask this question, but what are the state of Gus's pants?
I mean,
First of all, are you wearing armor?
yes, I'm wearing my armor.
Okay, he
but
can't
underneath...
see your pants because you've got armor on.
Right.
And he tells you that he's a tailor, not an armorer, and in any event, he's just locking up for the day. Good evening. And then he tries to shoulder past you to get to his stairs to go up to his dwelling. He is in no kind of mood.
I'm gonna just kind of put my arm, like, no, I really need some pants.
Put your arm where?
Really...
What are you doing with your arm?
I'm just kind of putting it in front of him. I'm not touching him.
Putting it in front of him?
Yeah, just
It's
kind
like
of blocking.
he's trying to go up to the stairs. You're putting your arm across the stairs so he can't?
Yes.
What are the other four of you doing when Gus does this?
I look like kind of look askance at Gus and move away from him a little bit.
Okay.
Like I don't want to get involved.
Okay. And Lucius
And I'm
is
gonna
also
go off
doing
a
it?
bit.
Alex and Florian?
Florian is taking in the surroundings, not paying much mind to whatever's going on.
It's a relatively busy street, and it's that time of day where a lot of businesses, like this little shop, are closing up for the day. Not all of them have closed. Not all of them are still open, but there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. A large crowd as people are moving from workplaces to home or to bars or just out and about. Kind of a transitionary period of the evening.
Alex is ordering Scrappy out of the main center of the road over to the edge of the road by the shop, and he's going to shuffle through Scrappy's bags and pretend to be looking for something while he actually cases the joint.
Yep.
Looks for places that he could pick the lock, looks for anything he sees like might be some sort of security measure.
Okay. There's an alley that goes around the back of the house that you haven't seen.
And the main thing I want to see is where the good vantage points of this shop would be, like rooftops, watchtowers, that sort of thing.
You have lots and lots of options because you can pretty much be on any building roof nearby. You could even be on the walls that overlook the Palace District, which are very high indeed and have a very commanding view of the whole area. And there are indeed watchtowers. I believe they're on the map. Yeah, they're on the map here, around here. And have a pretty good look at this shop. As for the building itself, you have the main entrance out front that he's locking up as you guys approach. He's a sign of, I don't know, a shirt and a pair of breeches over the door. Two front-facing windows. You can go along the right-hand side of the shop. That's where the stairs leading up to the second floor are. The left-hand side, though, there's not space in between his shop and the next building over. If you go around the back, there's a kind of grungy alley back there where the bottom floor does indeed have a back door in.
I'm going to approach Gustavus and the tailor. I'm going to say, Gustavus, please. That's the man just got off work. Listen, my friend is in a bit of a dire pinch. I would be willing to absolutely pay double your rate if you could maybe make this a rush job tonight.
And he looks back and forth between you and Gus. And back to Lucius. Let's say triple.
Fair enough. It is your time. It is very valuable. Yes.
He takes a step back from the stairs where Gus has his arm blocking the way, and he goes back to the shop door, mumbling to himself, just in a foul mood altogether. And he unlocks the door to the shop, turns around, and motions you inside.
Okay. I'm going to come in. I'm going to take my armor off. And you're going to see the state of my pants, and they're not good. Because we've traipsed through sewers and the forest, and Gus only has the one pair of pants. So,
Just like everyone in this party can cast Mending.
I can't cast Mending. No, I can't. I don't know that spell.
So do you not allow anybody else to cast Mending on your stuff?
Oh.
I soiled Gus's pants before he came over.
Oh no.
The
I
shop.
just feel like he's never asked. So it's like his pants are just kind of in a state because he always goes around in the armor anyway.
The shop is very cramped. It's not cluttered. I should ask: is everybody going inside, or just Gus and Lucius?
Alex will stay outside.
With Scrappy?
I'll head
or-
inside.
Yeah, Alex and Scrappy will stay outside.
What about Florian?
Florian will stay outside.
Okay, so
Seeker
Florian-
said he's going inside,
Yeah,
right?
I'll
Yes.
head in.
Yeah, okay.
The shop is very cramped. You notice that there's no women's clothing inside. The man's not a dressmaker. And he doesn't have a lot of pieces just out for display. Most of what you see are just probably current projects that he's working. Notably, it doesn't look like he does clothing for very large or very small peoples. Probably he only does business with humans, which tells you he probably has a very narrow skill set or focus. He wouldn't know what to do with a gnome's tiny little stumpy legs. And he starts to go through the rigmarole of measuring Gus's legs, getting the circumference of his thighs, doing the thing where he reaches underneath and cups the good stuff. You know how it is. Taking no joy in this work whatsoever. There is a back area to the store where a lot of his materials and tools are kept. The front-facing area is just where he kind of meets and measures clients. There's no door. It's just a doorway that you're looking through. Seeker and Lucius, if you would please give me perception checks individually while Gus is getting measured.
Occasionally you hear Gus go, ow, ow, as he's poking. This guy's poking you with pins, probably.
He's not doing it on
Roll
purpose.
12.
He's maybe doing it a
Oh.
little on purpose.
Roll the 12, Brickhood.
12 and 12?
No, that is from me a 15.
A 15. The cat has to wait outside, by the way.
That's fine. That was my 15. My cat rolled a God.
Well, your cat's not in the
Actually,
shop.
worse than me. Anyways, that was my 15.
Okay, so scanning the back room, it'd be difficult to get a layout of his storeroom area, without being very conspicuous. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how conspicuous is Seeker being?
Seeker actually doesn't need to be super conspicuous because he's just looking for any sort of downward basement. Because then his plan
Understood,
is
but
he's gonna
on a
come
scale
back.
of 1 to 10, how obvious is it that, or how obvious is Seeker willing to be that he's looking in this back room and scoping it out?
In this situation, like a 2,
Okay.
real low.
Okay. You realize that the shape of the back room is odd, and that the inside walls don't match that well. And you didn't notice it at first, but it makes sense, because outside you had the stairway leading up to the second floor, and typically these would just be like wooden stairs built on the side of the building. But on this building, they're actually mortared stairs, which means there's solid space underneath them. Looking at the inside shape of this room, you think that has to be a later addition to the building. So you're scanning along the right-hand side of the wall, and you notice there's a series of cupboards at floor level, and then another set up at eye level, and one of them in the middle and towards the bottom that you have to stoop, that he would have to stoop to get down, has just a padlock on it, and none of the other cupboards do.
That is what we call in the business a clue.
That's a clue. Gus, I don't know how much the player's handbook says a pair of pants cost, but you owe him 3 times that.
I mean, let's see, hold on. I don't think they have like just for clothes.
Yeah, sure they do have the commoner's outfit.
But that's like a shirt and pants.
Yeah, just take that number and multiply by 3.
Okay, 15 silver pieces.
That's what he's going to charge you for a pair of pants.
Okay. Are they at least good pants?
They're decent quality. This is not a high end. Let's put it this way. This is not where Corio Fireblood is being fitted for his half capes and his pantaloons.
Oh. I'll ask him if he's got any half capes in stock.
So he doesn't really have anything in stock. He's not a clothing store. He's a tailor.
Oh, right. This is not Macy's. This is medieval. Gotcha.
It's not Macy's, it's Macy's.
But
So what's next?
I want to put my new pants on.
Well, they're not done yet. He's just taking the measurement. It's going to take him several hours to go back, and he'll probably find a pair of pants that he has in there and do the appropriate measurements. And it's going to involve you sitting here and waiting and trying them on and making revisions. And it's making a pair of pants is going to take all night. You're paying him triple because... Okay.
Sit down.
He doesn't seem to ask any questions about why this pair of pants is extremely important to be done right away, which kind of strikes you as odd, because typically a shopkeep in this state, I mean, they take the money and they do the work, but they'd also be very inquisitive, especially in Dunfoss when everybody likes the choice gossip and rumors, little mysteries to solve. He's very tight-lipped. Is anything else going on outside? Or are we just going to wait?
Florian is just making sure that no one is looking at them. They're not being tailed.
I mean,
Everything's just
people
all
are
dipped
looking
up.
at you because you have a giant metal badger that everybody walking past turns and looks at.
And he's very cute.
And sometimes people make inquiries about Scrappy, and sometimes, like, Scrappy does not go unnoticed in Dunfoss.
That's fine.
So you're not being inconspicuous at all.
As long as there isn't like a rival investigation group
Like, no.
tailing us.
So you guys are going to spend well into the night waiting for Gus's pants to be done.
Are any attempts for Lucius to make small talk?
Sure.
Are they rebuffed as well?
Depends on the topic. Make me an insight check.
Not good at these.
Nobody's good at these. Nobody ever takes insight. 12. Over the course of the conversation, I mean, you've heard this concept that there might be a secret way into catacombs that link to the palace in this office. And speaking to this guy, he's not rude, he's not uncivil to you, but he has a knack for ending conversations and topics very swiftly. He doesn't seem interested in anything. He seems interested in working in silence as much as possible. And you're thinking, this is exactly how a man who frequently deals with people wanting to use a secret passage into the palace would learn how to act.
Yeah. No, that tracks.
So yeah, what are you talking about?
Small talk mostly, not really trying to get too much, like, I'm not trying to tip the group's hand in any way.
Okay. Then over the course of several hours of work, he finds a pair of reasonably nice breeches that he has on hand, and applies and reapplies them to Gus. Gus, your pants are on and off all night. In the least exciting way possible. As he takes them out here, and he tightens this up here, and he replaces a seam and a button here and there. And after several hours of work, a fairly comfortable pair of pants you're now wearing. And payment is 15 silver, and it's very late at night now.
I will leave 3 gold on the counter as well. As kind of a tip.
Is that in addition to the 15 silver that Gus is paying him?
Yes.
So Gus, you pay him...
Lucius footed that bill as well.
So Lucius pays 15 silver, and then you pay 3 gold on the counter?
Yeah.
And he takes the 15 silver and looks very suspiciously at the gold coins. Then he walks to the front door, takes out his key, and he locks it. And you see him go to each of the 2 windows, the shutters, which have been closed the whole time. He's already locked up for the night. And just double checking the latches on the inside. And then he turns around. Says, "You're not here for pants, are you?"
Did you see the state of my pants?
A matter of convenience, I assure you.
After the first 20 minutes, Alex will have wandered off to not be so suspicious. He'll just be wandering around this part of the city,
Okay.
kind of trying to look like he's busy when he's really not. He's continuing to scope out viewpoints, and in particular, he's going to cast See Invisible and kind of take a look around and see if there's anyone who does not want to be seen, observing that shop.
Relatively business as usual. Down here on the streets in this part of town. Your See Invisible doesn't reveal anything. Make
Okay.
me a perception check.
I am good at that now. That's... yeah, sure, that's a 4.
A 4.
Can't be good at it when you roll a 1.
You see lots of places where it'd be like, if you were wanting to get a good bird's eye view of this shop and keep an eye on it over a period of time, there's lots of places. Like, you'd have Seeker send his Tressum up to this building here. It's just anybody who could fly and be invisible, which is like half of Flumph Inc. And most of the new character archetypes in Tasha's.
Once Florian realizes he's locked out, he just kind of stares at the door and the windows.
Oh, you're locked out. Like, he never did open up the windows. So they can't look outside and see Florian staring. But Alex, you don't see anybody up on any of these vantage points watching.
Okay. Yeah, no, that the whole idea is I do one set of rounds without See Invisible, and then do another with See Invisible and try and see if I see anybody that I didn't notice the first time. But that's pretty much all Alex is doing during this period.
Does not look to be the case. So you guys are out there until late at night, because after a while the crowd does die down, and the only other people you see on the streets would be a Moss Cat patrol going by.
Once we're at that point, I'll duck into a local inn and just take a seat in the common room, order something to drink.
Okay. So back in the shop,
wait outside so they can find me.
Stouser is telling you that you're not here for pants, and Gus is like, "Oh no, we're here for the pants. We definitely need
Seeker
the pants."
nods towards the coins on the counter and just says, "We're just paying you for your conversation, or a lack thereof, as the case may be."
He asks Seeker, "What have you heard?"
Nothing from you, which personally I like in a man.
He says that there are foul rumors about his family and about this shop. And he spends a good part of his day sometimes disabusing undesirables of certain notions.
And Seeker just shrugs and says, "That sounds like a good use of your time. You wouldn't want undesirables hanging around."
He's just eyeing the gold very suspiciously. And you can tell that he wants to take it. But he's not sure what that will, what sort of obligations he'll be under if he does.
Seeker just kind of nods towards the coin and says, "Here, it's yours. I promise you'll never see us again."
Gus, do you put your armor back on over your new pants?
Yeah.
As Gus starts to don his armor, the tailor takes the 3 gold coins. They disappear into a pouch around his belt. Says, then is our business here concluded, gentlemen?
Seeker
I
will
don't
nod.
think so.
We have our pants.
Yeah, thank you.
Then he goes back over to the door and unlocks it. And Alex and Florian from across the way, in a tap house, which is long, it's gone dark by this point. Looking out the front window, you see the door of the tailor shop open up. The tailor and your companions walk out, and you can't even see Gus's remarkable new pants.
See, now if I were an Alexander, I would be in a tap house. Which is
The
right
one
across
with
street.
Scrappy standing in front of it?
The only one that still has a light in one of the windows because the patrons inside won't friggin' leave even though it's 2 a.m. That one.
Gus is walking across. He's doing that leg shake where like your pants, like to kind of like you do as you to like reposition yourself inside
Oh.
your pants.
No need. The pants are good. Man, the quality work.
Right.
The boys are well supported.
Well, in that case, he's gonna have a spring in his step. Then
We're gonna
It's
need
not
to know
fair,
what
yeah.
Gus does to break in new pants. We're gonna have to learn.
Very important things.
And after the man lets you out, he locks the shop back up and just goes around the side of the house and goes up the stairs and disappears in the door at the top.
What did
Yeah.
you learn there at the end? He locked his door and I couldn't get in.
And Seeker nods towards Lucius and says, "We seem to have paid for his silence."
Perhaps.
You don't sound very sure of that.
Seeker
I
shrugged.
mean,
Wasn't my play.
who can really be sure of anything? Let's be honest.
I'm
So
pretty
you want to go
sure
in tonight, or do you want to go in tomorrow?
tonight.
Give me 1 second. And Seeker goes over towards the dog. You know, Scrappy, the dog. And I think I am going to cast Arcane Eye on the other side of that cabinet we noticed with the lock on it.
Okay.
I mean, we got you a good look inside, so.
You can put an arcane eye in the back room. I don't think you have line of effect to the inside of the cabinet, though.
It should just be...
Yeah, I'm just double checking the wording of it.
Yeah, that's fair. I haven't cast this before.
This didn't happen with this group, but I had another group that abused the hell out of this spell because they didn't read it carefully enough, and I
No,
didn't
it was
bother
this
to read
group. It was just that if you combine it with a couple of Warlock wounds, it gets really bullshit.
No, it wasn't this group because they happened during Curse of Strahd. And
Okay.
I didn't run that for y'all.
Taryn definitely used some arcane eyes for some bullshit.
I think the ruling there was that the eye had the same vision you do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Tyrion had crazy warlock vision.
Oh, because he could also create a portal anywhere he could see.
Warlocks are fucked up, man.
So yeah, you could put the eye back in the room because you have line of effect into the shop because you have the keyhole. But you wouldn't have line of effect to the other side of the cabinet door.
Okay, then. I think I'm good for now. Oh, actually, I know a way to get line of effect to the other side of the door. I'm going to desummon and then resummon my familiar on the other side of the door.
I gotta read Find Familiar. Make sure you can do that. Takes 1 hour to cast the spell, is that correct?
Yep. As an
And you're
As
summoning
an-
an octopus.
yeah.
Is there a quiet alleyway we can make our way down while he's doing this?
Sorry, I'm just reading the spell.
Why are we summoning an octopus?
We're not so. My thinking is that so for Arcane Eye it says you can summon it in a location near you,
Yeah,
but you need to be able to see. Whereas for Find Familiar, you can summon it in any occupied space within 30 feet of you.
You don't need to be able to see it. You need to have a line of effect that you can trace between you and the target for the magic to target that space. And you don't
Could
if
you
it's
give
on the
me
other side of something that
what
has
does line of
full cover.
effect mean?
Okay, so you need a clear path to the target, and it can't be behind total cover. So let's say that you're standing on the other side of, you're standing on the side of a building, and you know there's a door leading into the building that's open, but you can't see the door.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have line of sight into the room because you're not looking through the door, but you do have a clear path to the target, like a line of effect, because you can draw that line from you around the side of the building and into the door. So you can cast your familiar or an arcane eye into that room. If the door is closed and there's no hole in the door, you no longer have a clear path to the target because it's now behind total cover because the door is closed. So now you have neither line of sight nor a clear path to the target. So that's what I mean when I say line of effects. If you want to target a particular place, you need a clear line of effect between you and that target. That's standard magic rules out of the PHB. It's different from line of sight because you don't need to see that space, but you do need a way to affect that space. And you need to be able to do that by drawing a line between you and that space.
All right. Well, in any case, so what do you guys want to do? Do you want to break in there tonight, or do you want to break in tomorrow?
I mean, we have a man with thieves' tools, right? I feel like didn't you take like double proficiency on your thieves' tools or something?
Yeah, I have something stupid like that. Don't worry about it.
So I mean,
Do you want to take an hour, let this guy fall asleep, take a short rest, maybe somewhere, and come back and break in?
I mean, the only thing I'm down is Tap's a set of goggles he has hanging off his pack. A little bit of see invisibility. I'm completely full up.
to the tap house. Drinks
I
are
think
on
waiting-
Lucius.
I think we wait an hour. Yeah, no, we'll let the guy. fall
I
asleep.
think it'll just give us two benefits. One, because it'll let the guy fall asleep.
Okay, are you going in the front door or the back door? So there's a back door to the storeroom that's in the alleyway behind that building.
I would like to inspect the back door to see if there are any traps or alarms.
Go ahead and give me that check.
What exactly should I be rolling here? Because this is kind of unclear. To me.
Investigation.
Okay. That's an investigation of 25.
Okay. Door's got a keyhole, locked with a key from the inside, but you don't see any obvious traps.
Can I use Arcana actively as if using Detect Magic to see if there's any alarm spells or anything like that?
Sure. Well, what's your
This is
passive
sweet.
arcana?
My passive Arcana is 18.
Then, yeah, you can tell as part of just investigating it for traps and stuff, does not seem to be any magical wards or defenses.
All right,
And that makes sense. The man reports from your companions who just spoke with the man. He's probably not a spellcaster. There's no magic in his lineage, and he doesn't have the money to hire one.
Let's go Thieves' Tools. Alright, so that's going to be a Dex. And then, I'm going to have a cigarette with this, obviously. Alex doesn't work without a cigarette.
Every time Alex says that, I just picture Snake with his little vape stick in his robot hand.
And double proficiency. 21.
Yeah, no problem. After a couple of moments finding the tumblers inside, you hear the lock click.
Put my thieves' tools away and motion to my companions.
And the back room is even more cramped than the front room was. You still have a doorway that you can look out into the front room where Gus had been gussied up, as it were. No light inside. He doused the lantern after he locked up. Lots of materials. Very cramped, but not disorganized. Everything has its place. Lots of tools lined up, hung on racks. And to your left-hand side as you come in, you see the cupboards, 2 rows of them. One close to the floor, one higher up at about eye level, and only one of these cupboards has a lock on it.
Let's go ahead and do the same procedure. So I'm going to start with a looking for traps and magic on the locked cupboard.
Okay.
That would give me an investigation of... guidance on yourself all the time. Only a 12.
And again, it just looks like a typical little... Looks like it needs this very small key, but nothing tricky.
That's a thieves' tools of... that's a 12?
And after a few moments, you hear the click inside the padlock, and it gives way. And I mean, it's just a wooden cabinet, so if you'd failed, you could have just busted it open.
Yeah. I'll slip the lock off and open it.
Inside, you do see a cupboard space, but there's not a back wall to it, and the cupboard is actually bare. Crawling through the cupboard on the other side of it is a dark space which would take up the space underneath the mortared stairs that go up the side of the shop. There's no floor on the other side of the cupboard. It's actually just, it looks just like cobbles, like the road that the around the shop. But you see where some of the brickwork in one side has been removed, probably a long time ago, leaving this kind of misshapen hole down into the earth. And craning your head in, do we have a light source right now?
I've got 120 feet of dark vision.
Okay. Leaning inside with your dark vision, you can see where iron rungs have been fitted into the side of this hole. So for maybe 5 or 6 feet, you'd be climbing down through brickwork. And then from there, you have some distance where you'd be climbing down through a tunnel of earth. And to see any further than that, you'd have to actually climb through the cupboard and look down.
Yeah, we've got a ladder.
Yeah.
And let's see here.
Scrappy's medium, not large, right?
Yes, I can ride him because I'm small.
Well, you're not riding him through this hole, but...
Right, just, yes.
If he's large, he wouldn't be able to squeeze through.
Right. Hey, Seeker, Florian, which one of you thinks you can stay out of sight better?
Well, I know invisibility.
I'll hand you a pair of boots. Put these on.
Don't lose them to a crime lord.
So those are boots of elvenkind. You have advantage on stealth checks that rely on sound, and you cannot make sounds when you're moving.
And who's going down first? Also, how is Scrappy getting down this ladder? It's going to be hilarious.
How long does it take to disassemble and reassemble Scrappy?
A long rest.
Oh, okay.
So
You need to make
Gus going down first with magic boots. Did I hear that correctly?
They were given to Florian.
Was Florian going down first with the magic boots?
Yeah, well, it sounds like Florian's casting invisibility on himself,
Okay.
magic boots, and go down. So he is invisible and is not making noise.
What a thrill.
All right. Oh, the ladder's not that long.
Oh.
It's exactly that long. What a thrill.
That's it. That's... Yes.
I'm sorry. I had to. I couldn't not.
The amount of the song you get to sing is directly proportional to the length of the ladder.
Florian, you climbed down a fair amount. This place was described to you guys as being a cellar, but it's clearly not a cellar area. It was not, or is no longer used for that purpose. In fact, the building doesn't seem to have a cellar or a basement room at all. What this looks to be is a kind of haphazard passage that was under this city street that somebody discovered here, and then the tailor shop had a hasty addition put onto it to hide it. You climb down a good 40 or 50 feet and find yourself in a very small stone chamber. Old dwarven stonework. A lot of the stonework underneath Dunfoss is of old dwarven make from the days hundreds of years ago when dwarves used to be much more common and great kingdoms that no longer exist before the first nobles of Dunfoss set root here. And the stonework here belies its age. So you have the ladder to your back, which is a much newer addition. And then in front of you, a relatively steep stairwell leading down, spiraling around to the left.
Let's head downstairs.
When you get to the base of the stairs, you find yourself in this tiny 10-foot by 10-foot chamber, which is adjoined to what looks like a larger chamber through a small hole where some bricks and mortar have been torn away. And you hear malicious skittering noises, something scratching on stone on the other side of the wall. And that's where we're going to take a 15-minute break.
Oh no.
Ooh.